these have been on a tear. If you look at the PSU Banking Index, it's done well for itself. Over the last 7 days, we've seen it move up more than 11% in trade. And clearly, it's the rally to watch out for. What's driving this stellar move among PSU banks, the stocks listed on the Nifty? Let's find out. My colleague from our research team, Harsh, is joining us to do that. Harsh, tell us about this crazy kind of action we are seeing in PSU banks. They seem to be on this strong up move. What's driving it?
Well, yes, PSU banks are in focus largely because the re-rating seems to be going on. And essentially, what we're seeing is PSU banks, in terms of their price to book comparable versus their 5-year averages, are well beyond their 5-year averages. In fact, they're very close to now doubling up on some of those 5-year averages. They are on almost a decadal high. Some at a 7 and 8 and a 9-year high are where few of the PSU banks are currently placed at. What we are seeing is that a lot of the asset quality has now improved over the years, and they've provided for a large chunk of the bad loans. Recoveries, in fact, are in progress for most PSU banks. You are seeing a tailwind in terms of the recoveries, and with it, credit growth is extremely robust in the system. You are seeing double-digit credit growth in the system, especially financial year to date, definitely nearly a 15% credit growth in the system. So you are seeing across the board, there is a very solid tailwind. Of course, with credit growth, what's also important is to mix and match it with adequate capitalization, and these PSU banks currently are very well capitalized. At the start of 2020 as well as 2021, you did see the government also capitalize some of the PSU banks, aid it with further capital, and that's what's really pushing growth. And with adequate profitability now, profits are also adding to that growth. So there's a good solid tailwind for PSU banks, which is really pushing the rally forward.
Yes, indeed, Harsh. There are many factors that are helping PSU banks right now. In fact, they've done so much better. They've outperformed private banks when you see the kind of action in the markets right now. But now the question is, looking at the financial stocks, looking at the banking stocks in recent times, the question is, will they continue to rise? What are the trends suggesting? In fact, we got ET Now's managing editor, Nikunj Dalmia, to break that down for us, what the future of banking stocks is looking like. And this is what he said earlier this evening.
I think the rally in PSU banks will continue. I'll tell you why. What markets are not realizing is that you cannot compare last 5 years. Why? Because the historical number for PSU banks were very different than what the future reality would be. You know, banking is not like FMCG that it's a trend which you follow. PSU banks have gone through a lot of churn because of the cycle and because of the NPA issues which had hit them. So last 5 years, you can look in isolation and talk about, okay, last 5 years, valuations were X, now valuations are Y. I think the reason why PSU banks are outperforming is because they are cheap. B, they have a huge liability advantage. C, in terms of the way some of the large PSU banks, I'm referring to large PSU banks, SBI, BOB, the way they've also built up their technology platform and their retail franchise, I guess in the near term, you may say that the real outperformance in PSUs is here. So asset quality is healthy, valuations are strong, and even the recoveries have been very decent. You throw it up with the technical angle, and if you look at the technical aspect here, which is what the PSU banking index did last week, I guess technically it was again a very important week. So if you put everything together, the technical momentum, valuations, and the near-term tailwind for the sector per se, I think performance is here and the outperformance is real. That's the sense I got from Mr. Khara also, that look, State Bank of India will grow. He's talking about a 3 to 5 year cycle. So I'm not saying that you get carried away, but you want to be with banks. Just because PSU banks have gone up, that does not make private banks look good. And just because PSU banks have not made money in the past does not mean they will not make money in the future. What do you want to avoid here? A small PSU banks. They don't have scale, they don't have reach, and they don't have a strong liability franchise. So what do you want to do? You want to be with large 3-4 PSU banks, and this trend in the near term and in the medium term, I think is real.